Glial cells support and enhance neural activity. Glial cells were originally believed to hold the nervous system together. The Greek glia means glue, but glial cells can also communicate with other cells in the body by directly affecting neural functioning and providing neurons with raw materials and chemical signals that alter the structure. There are at least as many glial cells as neurons in the brain, even more, a 1-to-1 ratio in strength. There are many types of glial cells. One type is called an astrocyte, a star-shaped glial cell with numerous processes that run in all directions. A second type is microglia cells, extremely small glial cells that remove cellular debris from injured or dead cells. Each spinal nerve is named according to the segment of the spinal cord. Each spinal nerve is named according to the segment of spinal cord to which it is connected. There are 8 cervical, which are your neck, 12 thoracic, the trunk, 5 lumbar, lower back, 5 sacral, pelvic, and 1 coccygeal, bottom. The autonomic nervous system. Autonomic ganglia, found in various locations in the body outside of the nervous system, is responsible for oligodendrocyte cells, a type of glial cell that forms myelin in the central nervous system. Schwann cell, the glial cell that forms myelin in the peripheral nervous system. Myelination is the process of myelin formation. Myelin is just the fatty tissue that insulates around the axon, formed by glial cells, and improves the speed of conduction or action potential. When there is a lack of myelin, a gap between segments of the myelin sheet, where the axon membrane is exposed on membrane and the myelin sheet. When there is a gap in the myelin sheet and the axon membrane is exposed, this is called the node of Ranvier. Edema, which is the swelling of brain tissue. Glial cells are of clinical interest for a variety. Glial cells are used in clinical research. Some glial cells, especially astrocytes, respond to brain injury by changing in size. Some glial cells, especially astrocytes, respond to brain injury by changing in size. Edema is swelling of tissue, such as in the brain, in response to injury. Multiple sclerosis, a disorder characterized by widespread degeneration of myelin. The gross anatomy, which is an anatomical feature of the nervous system that are apparent to the naked eye. There are 2 parts of the nervous system, peripheral and central nervous system. The peripheral is the portion of the nervous system that includes all the nerves and neurons outside the brain and spinal cord. The central nervous system is the portion of the nervous system that includes the brain and the spinal cord. Nerves are oligodendrocyte cells, a type of glial cell that forms myelin in the central nervous system. Schwann cell, the glial cell that forms myelin in the peripheral nervous system. Myelination is the process of myelin formation. Myelin is just the fatty tissue that insulates around the axon, formed by glial cells, and improves the speed of conduction or action potential. Cranial nerve, a nerve that is connected directly to the brain. Spinal nerve, also called somatic nerve, a nerve that emerges from the spinal cord. Nerve consists of sensory projections from the body to the spinal cord. The ventral root consists of motor projections from the spinal cord to the muscles. Each spinal nerve is named according to ganglia, connection of nerve bodies belonging to the autonomic division of the peripheral nervous system that are found in various locations and invert the major organs. Preganglionic cells, referring to neurons in the autonomic nervous system that run from the central nervous system to the autonomic ganglia. Postgangliotic cell, referring to neurons in the autonomic nervous system that run from the autonomic ganglia to various targets in the body. The autonomic nervous system has 3 major divisions: the sympathetic nervous system, parasympathetic nervous system, and the enteric nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is a component of the autonomic nervous system that arises from thoracic and lumbar spinal cord. Parasympathetic nervous system is arising from both the cranial nerves and the sacral spinal cord. Sympathic chain, a chain of ganglia that runs along each side of the spinal column, part of the sympathetic nervous system. Norepinephrine is a neurotransmitter produced and released by sympathetic postganglionic neurons to accelerate brain activity. Acetylcholine is a neurotransmitter produced and released by the parasympathetic postganglionic neurons by motor neurons and by neurons throughout the brain. Enteric nervous system, an extensive mesh-like system of neurons that cover the function of the gut. Cerebral hemisphere, the right and left halves of the forebrain. Cerebral cortex, the outer covering of the cerebral hemisphere that consists largely of neural cell bodies and their branches. Gyrus, a ridged or raised portion of the convoluted brain surface. Gyrus, a ridged or raised portion of a convoluted brain surface. Sulcus, a furrow of a convoluted brain surface. Frontal lobe, the most anterior portion of the cerebral cortex. The brain has 4 major lobes. The frontal lobe, which is the most anterior portion of the cerebral cortex. The parietal lobe, lying between the frontal and occipital lobe. Temporal, the large lateral temporal lobe, the large lateral cortical region of the cerebral hemisphere. Occipital, large region of the cortex covering much of the posterior part of each cerebral hemisphere. Sylvian fissure, although called a lateral sulcus, it's a deep fissure that demarcates. Sylvian fissure, a deep fissure that demarcates the temporal lobe. Central sulcus, a fissure that divides the frontal lobe from the parietal lobe.